President took a moment of silence after many days of speeches just to express the fact that I'm very proud and very impressed and I must say a little bit intimidated to take the floor in front of you, the representatives of 1 billion citizens from Vancouver to Vladivostok. We've done great work here, and it is indeed a bit emotional for me to address you here. Thank you, Doris. Thank you, Doris. I know this is something that we normally do at every annual session. We have to thank the host country, but this is not simply a formality. It's really coming out of our heart. We would like to thank you, the German delegation, the Bundestag, and everybody. Of course, we cannot mention everybody, but every single person who's been involved in this exercise, the volunteers who are outside, those who are at the airport, those who have arranged the bus, transport, etc. You've done a great job, and this is something that we very much appreciate. So thank you very much. We are here gathered because we are in the framework of the OSCE. So let me say a few words about the OSCE. Last year in Minsk, we had 4 empty chairs. We had 4 signs for the OSCE Secretariat, the OSCE Director, the Freedom of the Media, the High Commissioner for National Minorities, but there were no people. The OSCE didn't have any individuals identified for these positions. Now the OSCE has identified 4 strong, motivated, authoritative leaders. You've heard Thomas Greminger, Lamberto Zanier, the High Commissioner for National Minorities, Harlem Desir, the Freedom of Media, and ODIHR Director, the successor of Michael Link, Gisla Dottir. Those 4 leaders of the OSCE have given the OSCE a new boost, and the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly in this framework has worked very well, has cooperated with all these institutions, and cooperation has been discussed here many times. What we have found as a key for this cooperation is a cooperation based on the final results. It's not just a cooperation to be friendly with each other or to be kind to each other, this is normal, but it's a cooperation focused on how we can best deliver for the end users of the OSCE product, those you represent. This is what the OSCE is about. It's not about self-aggrandizing 4 different institutions, but it's about putting together all these assets, all the differences of these institutions, and put them to work for the benefits of the OSCE citizens from Vancouver to Vladivostok, those you represent. So I think this is an excellent sign of cooperation within the international framework. The budget. You've heard from Ambassador Greminger the difficulties that the governmental side has in passing a budget or the politicization of the budget cycle in the OSCE. We are here lucky. You've heard that we've received a substantial increase of our budget. Just a small correction, Doris mentioned that it's a budget to increase our salaries. There are no salary increases in our budget. This is a budget to increase some of the activities that we will deliver and also to strengthen our research fellow program. But we appreciate the increase in budget because it shows that you have trust in our work and you have trust in how we deliver this work to service you, the members of Parliament. For the last 3 years, there's been requests for us to increase the budget. I was very hesitant in bringing a budget increase because first I wanted to do some homework. I wanted to introduce in the Parliamentary Assembly new rules and regulations, financial rules and regulations, so that we would come up to you and ask for an increase based on the homework that we had done before. And also here I'd like to thank the OSCE executive structure, Greminger, but it was Lamberto Zanier before, who gave us the key on what kind of rules and regulations, what kind of financial rules and regulations we should introduce in our assembly in order to manage our finances. We've introduced also more internal oversight by hiring a new chief of administration and finance. So the budget increase we have received is in good hands, and of course we will continue to administer these funds very carefully. Mais, ça je le dirai en français, la plus grande ressource de l'Assemblée parlementaire, ce n'est pas seulement le budget qu'on reçoit et les membres du staff que vous voyez ici. La plus grande ressource, c'est les membres du Parlement, c'est vous. Nos activités sont faites par vous, dans les observations électorales, dans les missions sur la migration, sur le terrorisme. C'est une assemblée qui appartient aux membres du Parlement. Les membres du Parlement sont la seule autorité qui a le droit d'ordonner et l'autorité pour agir. Songez de construire une assemblée parlementaire au dehors de la souveraineté et de la primauté de la politique, c'est aller nulle part, c'est faire une chimère. Donc il ne faut jamais oublier qu'on est dans le contexte d'une assemblée parlementaire et l'assemblée parlementaire appartient aux membres. C'est eux qui nous donnent la direction, c'est eux qui nous donnent la vision de ce qu'on va faire. Nous, on est aussi au service de l'assemblée parlementaire et on met en place ce que vous voulez que nous on fasse. President Saratelli, a word for you. You've been extremely active. I said this in the standing committee. You've been a very strong president, and you've managed to break some of the old taboos that sometimes we've had in the OSCE areas in general. Many were thinking, is it possible to have a president who comes from a country who has difficulties with a neighboring country? Some were thinking, is it possible to have a president from a small country? Some also were critical sometimes, or, well, a president who comes from the opposition in his own domestic agenda, can it be a good president? You have demonstrated in these 8 months when you were acting president after Christine Mouton, whom we salute, left this assembly. You've demonstrated that you've been a very strong and engaged president, a person who has put also his personal touch, I must say, and also his personal heart in this work. So we look forward to working with you in the months to come. This Berlin session has been an incredible success, I must say. It's a record high of participation. We have 915 people participating, 261 members of parliament. It's a record high also for the participation of civil society and NGOs. We've had a big number of side events. Sometimes it was difficult to move from one event to the other. But this proves to the fact that there is a great enthusiasm in the Assembly. I felt it yesterday at the receptions or in all the moments when I've interacted with you. There is a great desire to engage. There is a great desire to participate in all our activities. So we cherish this enthusiasm, we appreciate this atmosphere, and most importantly also we appreciate the contribution, the interactions that we've had with civil society, with NGOs here. Of course, this is an assembly of elected politicians, of members, but it is healthy also to engage with civil society, with NGOs, to get stimulated by their ideas, and some have come up, and we will also be more present at the Human Dimension Implementation meeting organized by the ODIHR, which is the moment where also the organization interacts with civil society. A word about election observation missions, which is normally our, say, flagship of the organization. We've had 4 elections since our last meeting in Vienna. We've had an election in Italy, in Russia, in Azerbaijan, and Turkey. The elections in Italy, it was recalled by the representative of Italy, was in a country which is not the traditional country where we observed, but last September we were in Germany, we observed elections in the UK, we will observe elections, the midterm elections in the US. This shows that we have no double standards. We don't observe elections normally in the traditional country we were observed in the past, but we also go to other countries where we think there are no issues, but we do not want to have an assembly that has any double standards. So we observe east and west of Vienna, as we normally say in Vienna. One thing I would like to underline, 2 of these elections were snap elections. We had not foreseen them, Azerbaijan and Turkey, yet the International Secretariat, and you see here a small team, has managed to deploy rapidly missions. I think we have provided a good service for those who have observed these elections. So this testimony is also at our capacity to be flexible and to be rapid in deployment of missions. In the context of election observation, we've also seen this report from the Council of Europe. You've all probably been active, and it's been discussed a little bit also in some of the side events, this investigation into wrongdoings and allegations of corruptions of some members who have participated in election observation in the Council of Europe. Of course, we have to be very vigilant. It has touched the Council of Europe, but here we are not in competition. Here, if it has touched the Council of Europe, it's something that affects us, and we are sorry that this happened there, and nobody's immune. sometimes it could happen that something could happen to us as well. So rather than being reactive to this kind of allegations of wrongdoing, we will be proactive. And instead of putting together a committee after a scandal has erupted, we will try to be preemptive and introduce in this assembly some guidelines. We have already a code of conduct for members who observe elections, but I think we should take a proactive approach and introduce ourselves some proactive measures and some guidelines. Ambassador Montella, who is here from Germany, I would like to pay tribute to his work in the Assembly, will be in charge for our Assembly. He's a lawyer, he has been in the Assembly for many years, he knows parliamentary procedures, he comes from the Bundestag. He will help us draft some basic guidelines that then will be presented to the Bureau, to the President, and to the Standing Committee for adoption. But this will be the path we will follow, and I'm sure we will address some of the concerns that I've also heard informally being addressed in some of the side events. As Secretary General of a Parliamentary Assembly, though, I see my role as the one of protecting the honorability, the respectability of members of Parliament. I cannot accept that in general debate there is a group of experts or people or investigators who think that they have the monopoly of honesty, of truth, of integrity, and then there are another group, the parliamentarians, who have somehow to justify or to demonstrate that they have integrity. You know, my job here is to protect the honorability, the respect of members of parliament. So we will, of course, work very closely with all those who are interested in coming up with guidelines on how to prevent any wrongdoing. But with that in mind, that the members of parliament's honorability and honesty doesn't have to be demonstrated, it's already a given, but safeguards have to be put in place to avoid any kind of wrongdoings. The activities of the Parliamentary Assembly, I will not dwell too much, but I will just flag up the work of the Committee on Terrorism, headed by Makis Voridis, and the work of the Committee on Migration, headed by Ms. Landry. They've done a lot of work, concrete work, which is not just coming up with a report, but going into the field, going to meet refugees, going to meet terrorists in prison or alleged terrorists who are trying to go through, you heard yesterday from the Norwegian Deputy Speaker, through a period of rehabilitation. So I think we are doing concrete things which go beyond the simple issuing of reports and presentation of resolutions, but we're doing some activities on the ground. And I think this is something I'm very proud of this Assembly, is that yes, parliamentarians parlano, they speak, but they also do a lot of things in this Assembly and they do concrete work. So of this I'm very appreciative of your work. The reform agenda of the OSCE, you've heard Ambassador Greminger, we are fully supportive of his efforts to improve the organization. The ideas that he has put in place are very common sense ideas, are ideas that try to make the organization more fit for purpose. This is what we've always said, you know, we want this organization to deliver on what it has been established for. So Ambassador Greminger, rest assured that this Assembly here has your ideas in its mind and will fully support you. Of course, we also have an internal OSCE reform process led by Lord Bowness and a group of experts that the President Tsereteli has put together. And also there, the International Secretariat will accompany the work of this reform group within the Parliamentary Assembly, because we want to make our efforts and our work here also more efficient in the Parliamentary Assembly, and there is always space for improvement. And I do urge you indeed to approach us sometimes, and if you feel that some of the procedures here are not really how you want them to be, please approach us and we'll try to make this organization as more interesting and as more effective in line with what you desire. Now, this is my speech, but I would like to also recognize some of the members of our bureau who have left since we last met in Vienna. Marietta Tidei, our vice president, left the assembly and has become a regional governor and regional councillor in Italy. Guglielmo Picchi, also was a member of our bureau, has left. You saw him at the inauguration. He has become deputy foreign minister, and we're very happy for that. And Ignacio Sanchez Amor, who led our last efforts in Turkey, also has left this assembly and has become a cabinet minister in Spain with a very important portfolio. So we salute these departing members. There are two other members who also are leaving the assembly, who are still here today, and they are in this room. So I would like to recognize them, and I will start with Kent. Kent Harstedt is there. Kent is leaving the assembly in September. He has worked with us for many years, since 2010. He has been vice president. He has led many election observation missions. He has observed in many countries. He has led one of the most historical election observation missions in October 2014 in Ukraine, with the biggest number of observers ever, I think, 1,000 observers under his leadership. So, Kent, we would like to congratulate you for your work here. We know that you are not far away from Copenhagen, so we will be seeing you, and we will hopefully continue to work with you. But we would like to thank you for your work here, and we would like to invite you here a second because we have a little present for you.
Un altro membro dell'Assemblea parlamentare che ci lascia è l'onorevole Roberto Battelli. Ora, per me è difficile trovare parole per definire l'onorevole Roberto Battelli, perché Roberto Battelli è l'Assemblea parlamentare dell'OSCE, è qui da quando l'Assemblea parlamentare è stata creata, è stato il primo membro dell'Assemblea e il decano, si dice in italiano, dell'Assemblea parlamentare, ha appena lasciato il Parlamento un mese fa, ma ha fatto tantissimi lavori in questa Assemblea, è stato per 3 anni vicepresidente, è stato a lunghi anni tesoriere dell'Assemblea parlamentare, è stato a lungo il rappresentante speciale dell'Assemblea parlamentare nel Sud-Est Europa e per me che ho lavorato nel Sud-Est Europa vi posso garantire che è un'autorità in quella regione. Le sue dichiarazioni in materia elettorale ma su altre questioni diventano dottrina nei Balcani, quindi Roberto il tuo lavoro è veramente una cosa che nel Sud-Est Europa tutti riconoscono, ma non solo nel Sud-Est Europa, perché hai lavorato in tutte le regioni dell'OSCE. Di questo ti ringraziamo e ti preghiamo di venire qui a prendere un piccolo segno. Prego. Your book is a little bigger because I hope Kent doesn't feel that it's just a little perfect. And just as a token here this time, I hope the number says it all. It's 27 years. Okay, nice ceremony. I have one last point and I'm finished, and before I get to those questions if there are. Of course, all these efforts is not a one-man show here. It's the work of the International Secretariat is the effort of all my colleagues, and most of them are here, research fellows and permanent staff, the Deputy Secretary Generals. In Copenhagen and Vienna, we have a small staff, 20 members, helped by some research fellows. But it is our responsibility to make sure that everything runs on time and that everything is of your satisfaction. And we do this with little resources in terms of salary, but with a great heart and very much appreciative of doing this work for you, because we feel that we are engaged in something that is beyond an ordinary job, but it is something that has relevance in world politics. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have to follow procedure, but once again, Roberto, very much appreciate, your not only report, it was a very, I think, wide, insightful, informative speech, a very clear vision. I had a feeling, being many years in the Parliament, I'm listening not to, let's say, Secretary General or a representative of the executive branch and a bureaucratic structure, but to the very experienced politician and member of parliament. So maybe one day we'll see you in this capacity, have a great abilities for that, but we see also the great work of Secretary General and all the Secretariat in Vienna, also in Copenhagen, and we're really proud of that, and we will try, and we have to preserve all those, let's say, values and capacity and capabilities that we have in this assembly. And of course, very shortly, my very kind word goes to dear Kent, dear friend, and he will continue very active work. Also, I think that he will be also always very close to the Parliamentary Assembly, because it's the place when you enjoy the work and we enjoy the work with you. And of course, my good friend, dear Batelli, dear Vice President, and I think one of the most decent personalities I met here in this OSCE space, and between our colleagues. Thank you for your modesty, and thank you for being great colleague and very devoted, not only to the specific region, but to all of us and to all the OSCE, and a well understanding values of this organization. Thanks a lot. According to procedures, there should be questions. It's not obligatory, but we have one. Mr. Down from Canada will ask the question, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the Secretary General for his report. I was particularly pleased to hear about the work he started on guidelines to fight the rot of corruption, which we all have to be on guard against on a continuous basis. I'm concerned that in addition to guidelines, we have to have enforcement. Part of the problem, as I saw it in the Council of Europe, the people who should have behaved in a very honorable manner when allegations were made against them and stepped aside did not do that. And it turned out there was little or no mechanism to enforce the high standards that we would expect of everyone else. So I would hope, in addition to the guidelines, you have an enforcement mechanism, and thirdly, that there's a transparency component, so we understand what conflicts people may have. People in Parliament have many things going on. That's part of our work, but we need to be made aware of what those conflicts are so we know who we're dealing with. I thank you for the initiative, and I look forward to your report next year and what has been done and where we're headed in that area before we end up in a major mess.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's end with this very... Oh, sorry, you have to respond. I'm sorry about it. No more questions, no, please.
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, I call them guidelines, but I would say safeguards or any mechanism within the capabilities and the resources that the International Secretariat has, of course. We will put in place
we do have a code of conduct, a very stringent code of conduct, which allows, in the framework of election observation missions, the special coordinator to expel a member who has engaged in some activities, and that has been actually implemented a couple of times by Sanchez Amor, who has now left. So indeed, I take your point. It should not be something lukewarm or just mere guidelines. And in that vein, we will work also very closely with the Council of Europe. I've been, it might be not a surprise for you, but I've been in touch a lot with the Secretary General of the Council of Europe. I've received the detailed dossier, both of the allegations, but also the guidelines and the practices that they have put in place, this new code of conduct that they've put in place. And with Ambassador Montella, we will study the ways, the means of making sure that all the good practices, all the acquis that is in that document of the Council of Europe can be implemented in the Parliamentary Assembly. But again, I say within the framework of our resources, because if that guideline says the Parliamentary Assembly should request the financial display of each member, if under the current circumstance of the International Secretariat in Copenhagen, if I receive 321 financial disclosures, I don't have, and my colleagues here, they do not have the capability to either store this data or to either make an intelligence analysis of these or look at bank transactions. We do not have that kind of capability within our secretariat. So I think what we will try to do is go more into the line, but again, Ambassador Montella here is sovereign in this and he will come up with guidelines. But I think, I imagine that the draft we will present to the Bureau and the Standing Committee will be going more into the direction of self-declaration, a declaration that each member under his own or her own responsibility says, I do not have a conflict of interest with that particular country, therefore I can go and observe an election, or I do not have any particular conflict of interest with that company of that particular country, so I can be engaged in activity there. I think this is more or less where we're going, but I will keep you updating you in the months to come, because this is a very serious issue. It's something that we have to not take lukewarmly, we have to address it seriously. We are lucky again that it's not touched our assembly with any scandals, but in today's world you never know. I mean, it's very easy with social medias to immediately put stain on anybody. And again, the stain, or if you like, I mean, the embarrassment that our colleagues from Council of Europe have felt is not something that we are happy about. I mean, we are extremely upset about it, and we feel very sorry. We don't say, oh, well, it's them, thank God it's not us. It's something that involves all of us, because these are members of parliament. And again, as I said, it is the responsibility of civil servants who work for parliamentarians to ensure the honorability, the credibility, the respectabilities of members of parliament. Thank you.
Okay, there are no other questions, so we can end this section of our agenda. And now it's a very important part, is adoption of the Berlin final document. We'll now consider the draft Berlin Declaration, which consists of the final resolutions from each of the three committees, together with the supplementary items referred to the general committees and the plenary, which were considered by the drafting committee yesterday. Under paragraph 2 of Rule 39 of our Rules and Procedure, no further amendments can be proposed at this stage. And please keep this in mind for certain parliamentarians. First of all, we vote on the resolutions passed by each of the three general committees. Then we will take the supplementary items that were sent to the committees. In accordance with paragraph 3, Rule 39, I'm intentionally speaking slow to understand well. Paragraph 3 of Rule 39. The drafting committee met and produced this draft declaration and draft resolutions of the Assembly, as well as the preamble. Lord Bonus chaired the drafting committee, and thank you, dear Peter, doing this job. Thanks. There are some minor technical changes in the text before you before you, but there are no changes of substance in anything the drafting committee has done on our behalf yesterday. And we will now consider the draft declaration. If there is an objection to a paragraph, only the following may speak. And again, please, that's an intention of speakers who are quite active in this field. I don't know if they have this experience or not, to know rules and procedures well. Just to keep in mind what I'm telling to you. One speaker against the paragraph. One speaker is in favor. The rapporteur or chairman, and that's it. So now will be a draft declaration for the first committee. And we'll now take the preamble and paragraphs from 1 to 47 of that declaration. Does anyone want a separate vote of any of paragraphs?
Point of order.
Please. Procedural matter, please.
Слышно, нет? Уважаемый представитель, по процедуре ведения возможно ли? Как мы знаем с вами, что демократия – это в первую очередь соблюдение процедуры. По мнению наших коллег, сюда в итоговую декларацию берлинскую мы считаем, с нарушением регламента включена декларация по Крыму и Севастополю. Объясню почему. Пункт правила 24, пункт 3. В случае, когда член ассамблеи зарегистрировался для участия, но не может участвовать в ежегодной сессии в связи с выполнением неотложных обязательств, его или ее подписи остаются действительными при условии, что глава делегации надлежащим образом уведомил об этом председателя ассамблеи. Как мы знаем, что коллеги Герасимов и Геращенко были зарегистрированы на данную сессию, но в ней не участвуют в настоящий момент. И у нас есть информация, что требования о надлежащего образа уведомления председателя ассамблеи не были выполнены.